What's up, YouTube? It's the Gaming Recon here with another unit overview. This time we are doing the Omaha-class Tier 5 light cruiser. The Omaha-class actually was a class of light cruiser built for the United States Navy. It's the oldest class of cruisers still in service with the Navy at the outbreak of World War I. Now, the Omaha-class was an immediate post-World War I design. And basically, how they came to this was that in January of 1915, it was clear that the U.S. Atlantic Fleet needed a fast cruiser. They wanted someone to be able to get in a class of cruiser, to go out, provide information on the enemy's position, and deny information to the enemy of the position of our fleet. And another thing that they managed to find, that they wanted to actually multi-role this particular class of scout cruiser, was to also have it become an effective screening force for the slower battleships. And basically, what you end up having is a very, very large destroyer type cruiser. It's kind of a hybrid or an in-between. They're fast like destroyers, but larger and more heavily armed. So an anti-destroyer cruiser, which, from all the people who play World of Warships, especially cruiser captains, really want something to rip apart those destroyers, those little sneaky sons of bitches. Now, this cruiser was armed with 6-inch 152mm guns. Now, that was specifically a caliber chosen to take it to the destroyers. Now, they all displaced about 7,050 tons and were just about over 555 feet long. Now, these were limits imposed by the Washington Naval Treaty, limiting the size of the total tonnage of a navy. So when they decided to make a lot, almost 10 of these, each one weighing 7,000 tons, they can displace about that much tonnage across many more ships, whereas a battleship would take up most of that weight. And therefore, the United States was really getting a bang for its buck in terms of how many ships they can build with the treaty being in place and not breaching it. Now, the Omaha class mounted 4 smokestacks, and why they did that is to make it pretty much look like a previous class of destroyer that the American Navy had called the Clemson. Now, that was pretty much an effective camouflage scheme to enhance the resemblance, to make them look so similar that the enemy would think that there was a destroyer and not a cruiser that they were looking at. Their armament showed the slow change from casement-mounted weapons to turret-mounted guns. In the case of the Omaha, they actually have a twin-barreled 6-inch guns on the aft section and on the fore section, on top of their fixed swivel-mounted 6-inchers, which they have 4 also on the fore. So that would give you a total of, if you were facing the business end or the front of this ship, you would be coming face-to-face with a double-barreled 6-inch 53 caliber gun, and also 4 more, giving you 6 guns aimed at you without them even having to turn. The remaining 8 ended up being encasements, 4 on each side, giving it still a broadside effect. However, the cruiser design, this must have been the last one that the United States made. Now, if my information is inaccurate, feel free to correct me in the comments, that there were still guns mounted on the sides of the ship. Every other cruiser design that emerged after this usually had swiveling turrets of 3 or 2 set up in either a rotating turret fashion, and none of the swivel turrets were ever placed on the sides anymore, kind of like what the battleships were doing. Now, with a displacement of over 7,100 long tons, they ended up being very light. Again, the top speed being 35 knots or 65 kilometers an hour. That would allow it to keep up with any class of destroyer at the time. And again, if my information is inaccurate, please correct me. Allowing them to effectively not only screen against destroyers, but chase them down if need be, or intercept them, because there was nothing else faster than another destroyer, than a destroyer itself. And with a scout cruiser like this, you can keep pace with those guys. So let's take a look at this beauty. She, upon the outset, just looking at the exterior of this ship, I can't help but notice that she has a more modern. And what I mean by more modern is it doesn't look like a World War I ship, although it was made afterwards, but it doesn't quite look modern either. But you got the kind of plated deck here. Now, we're going to start her statistics by running the gamut from top to bottom. So let's take a look at her survivability. Now, here she has stock 23,100 hit points, which if in comparison makes her a little bit more resilient than her Tier 4 counterpart, the Phoenix. She carries with her one aircraft with one squadron. It's a fighter/scout float plane launched from the catapult. And let's take a look at that. There she is. All right. She also mounts a secondary catapult, which I guess when you get the upgrades, which we'll look at shortly, I believe you can launch 2 of these guys. I may not be able to tell. So let's so she's got pretty decent survivability, although there are some tier 2 cruisers like the St. Louis who may have more hit points. In fact, let's take a look at the St. Louis really quick. Yeah, it's got almost 30,000. So I guess again you're exchanging speed and maneuverability. So at the same exact time, you're faster than the St. Louis, but you can't take many hits. She carries with her, again, her main battery of 8 times single turrets of 6-inch guns, 152 millimeter. You can see the 4 of them mounted here in double standard swivel guns, and she has another 4 in the rear, giving her a total of 8. And then you got your main battery secondary. It's 2 by double-barreled rotating turrets of the same 6-inch caliber. Now what's cool about that is that all these guns can be turned broadside, which means this swivel will rotate 180 degrees either port and starboard, and so will these swivel mounts up top here, giving you an effective, a very effective, I believe in total, if you're looking at it, it's 10 guns. Right off the bat, it has 10 guns. Alright, so on top of that, not only is she fast, she carries torpedoes. There is 4 times 2 tubes each, so that would give it 4 tubes total. Kind of in the stern here, amidships, and double launchers. And they are 533 millimeter torpedoes. Their speed on the ground is 56 knots, which makes them a little bit slower than most of the torpedoes on destroyers. American ships in general just have kind of strange torpedoes, which kind of makes life a little daring because they only have a range of 5.5 kilometers. Now that's outclassed by any Japanese ship with torpedoes, mostly, which means you got to get pretty close to effectively hit them with it. So again, life is interesting being an American ship captain with a ship armed with torpedoes. Her maneuverability, which I seem to think is absolutely outstanding. We have a turning circle radius of 600 meters. That means for her to make a complete turn back to where she started, it's a 600 meter turn. That's a pretty tight turning circle considering that she is kind of long. Her rudder shift time is 9.8 seconds, which is outstanding, at least in my opinion, especially after driving battleships, which have a ridiculous rudder shift time. I need to lock that wheel and make quick turns in this thing, and I can definitely do that with this unit. Now, one of the things that, unfortunately, because she looks like a destroyer, although bigger, her surface detectability range is 13.5 kilometers, and from the air she can be spotted at 6.7 kilometers. So her concealment is average, right in the middle, and her anti-aircraft armament to start is only 4 76.2 millimeter anti-aircraft guns, which kind of just put up flack. Now looking at her upgrades, if we start out, first of all, she has the ability now with the recent update to hydroacoustic search, and that will allow you to increase your acquisition of enemy ships and torpedoes, those within the smokescreen area. including those within the smokescreen area, which allows you to spot those pesky-ass destroyers trying to hide from you. Her main battery, again, consists of 152 millimeter, 53 caliber Mark 13 and Mark 16 6-inch guns, and her original hull to start, again, gives you 3 units of aircraft, 10 main turrets, 4 torpedo tubes, and 4 anti-aircraft mounts, and a total hit points of 23,100. Now what that translates to is if you're going to play this a lot like an upgraded American cruiser, you're going to get hit, and you're not going to be able to take many of them before you eventually are sunk. So don't go out there by yourself like I do all the time, and please kind of maintain your range, because that armament, the 6-inchers, can reach out and touch people at 11.5 kilometers to start. The torpedoes cannot get any upgrades. Their maximum damage rating is 11,733 hit points in a range of 5.5 kilometers. The rate of fire is 1.4 rounds a minute. Now, that's actually pretty decent. I'm not going to complain because, again, for an American cruiser to even have torpedoes in this game, I believe there's only 2 of them, maybe 3. I haven't researched the higher tiers yet, but only the Phoenix and the Omaha have carried torpedoes. Otherwise, those are relegated to our destroyers. And again, because of the short range of American torpedoes, life becomes interesting as you have to close within pretty much able to count the rivets distance before you can actually fire these guys. Now, it's for the hefty price of 2,500 experience and 210,000 in-game currency, you can increase its firing range 10%, giving it an active firing range of 12.7 kilometers. Now, this is the only gun upgrade you can get. Now, personally, it is the cheapest thing to get. I would get it first so that I can reach out and touch people, especially when you're playing co-op battles. You can hit the computer's Omaha units outside of their effective range. That 1 kilometer does make a difference. When you research the hull upgrade, you end up with an additional 3,700 hit points. Your hangar capacity remains the same. Your turrets remain the same. But now you get an additional 8 anti-aircraft mounts, giving it a better anti-aircraft capability right off the bat in case you're going up against enemy carriers. The gun upgrade, after researching the hull upgrade, gives, again, additional torpedoes strength, I believe. Although it's not really explaining that here. The 152 millimeter Mark 13 and 16 and 53 gives it more survivability after the hull upgrade, better torpedo accuracy, more AA guns, and maneuverability. So these two would have to be researched at the same time. Personally, I would wait until I have about 6,000 plus experience, and then the final upgrade before getting to the Cleveland class, which I'm going to have a lot of fun in. I just like the way that thing looks, but that'll be for another video. You're mounting an additional 17 points in anti-aircraft damage, giving it at this moment in the game, at least at tier 5, pretty much the best anti-aircraft you're going to see on an American cruiser until you get higher up into the tiers. You increase your survivability again by 4 points, giving it a total survivability of 34, and maneuverability goes up as well, giving it a better, tighter turning radius. And that's it for the Cleveland. If you want to see me take this bad boy out, that will be in the next video. Again, my noobage is legendary, but I take it for the team. I take it for you guys. I love providing content like this. Let me know if you want to see any other units, and I will start a video series on the units and ships of World of Warships. If you guys would like to see more of a Japanese style of play, I'm sure I can get something arranged. Maybe I might go out there and purchase a premium account and get access to new port slots so I can have more ships in my inventory so that we can do unit reviews on also the Japanese Navy. Good night. Peace and love to all of you out there. This is the Gaming Rican, signing off. And feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and please offer feedback. If you feel like any of my information has been inaccurate or my opinions need correcting, feel free, don't hesitate. Just all comments are open. I'm not going to censor them until they become a problem. Have a great day, everyone.